So your parents were founding members of the National Action Network, Al Sharpton's, from the very beginning.
Yes.
How do you feel like watching that being a part of your life, your whole life? How do you feel like that shaped the way you parent to your son? I mean, you kind of alluded to it.
I think it's been it's not always been a good balance. He and I are super cool now, but there was a time when being a part of NAN required so much work and such fast pace all the time, a crises all the time, that my son sort of became, more so my parents' responsibility. Not that he still lived with me. He still was, being taken care of very well. He went to the best schools, all of that. However, he would have to stay there a lot, or they would have to be constantly trying to manage what's happening with him throughout the development stages.
So for clarity, your parents were founding members of the organization, and then here you come, and now you're an active member in the organization.
Right. But my parents were members. I was a staff person.
Got it.
So
okay.
that's the difference.
Yeah.
Is that my parents were members. They went on Saturdays. They gave their money.
It was your life
like
every
tithing.
day.
My mom was, she used to count the money on Saturdays and help with all of the administrative duties around, for the rallies. My dad was on the security team. But this still was volunteer work. I had responsibilities, and I grew through the ranks of the organization. I started out as a young kid, there doing office work. And also hosting our own rallies and our own activities for youth. But over time, I grew to be an executive director. So, that trajectory requires you to be really committed. It is a commitment job, so it's actually a lifestyle. And my son, he kind of fell in the cracks of it. So like I said, my parents, they were more responsible for monitoring the developmental stages of his life. My mom would be calling me.
Feel like they pushed him into it, or do you think they learned from?
They were getting older.
Yeah.
So it was different.
Yeah.
And of course they love their grandchildren different. We love grandchildren different from the way that we love our children. We love our children, of course.
Yeah, my son doesn't have any obligation and won't. And I'm like, I had to do everything.
Grandparenting is an entirely different thing. So my mom would call me and be like, this boy needs this and this, and I don't care where you are in the world. Like, you ain't that important, This needs to be taken care of, because she was his protector. And my dad was his dad because his father was deceased since he's 2. So my dad was the person who was there for him as a father figure. And so I'm very appreciative to them, because without them, God only knows what would have happened. And I probably would not have been able to pursue my dreams and my career path, because I would have been grounded to stay home with my child. I definitely wouldn't have just left him with anybody.
Right.
That wasn't a thing.
There's a narrative that becoming a parent slows you down in your career. But I think what you're saying is that it didn't necessarily have to be that way. You found a way to be able to do both. And it was helpful that you had parents that could step in and
And my sister too. My sister has always been like a second mom to my son. So there was a lot of folks around who kind of locked arms to make sure that he was good, including his father's side of the family. His aunt Chantel, she's on him, calling, checking, so he had a support system. But there is still a hole when your mother is not present and your father's deceased.
For sure.
So it's not like he had one parent consistently there and then one that was working. He had a father who has a traumatic story of how he left the earth, and then me, running around being everyone else's family member. So it was definitely difficult for him. I think now that he has his own child, he's like, woo, yeah.
Why are you telling me, Mom?
This hard, you know what I mean? With they say there comes a point in everyone's life when you finally understand what your parents mean when they say, one day you'll see. He's in his one day you'll see stage right now, trust me.
He's giving you all the grace now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like, Mom. He'll come in my room with my granddaughter and say, you can watch her. You know, like, you got this right now because I need 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And I understand. Yeah.
And even how you're so busy now, I would have assumed way more busy than you were.
You know, it's
years
funny
ago.
though, because I was becoming at that time.
Yeah.
You know, that grind is real when you are climbing the ladder and you're trying to not so much be noticed, but you want to stand out as being the best at what you do.
Right, for sure.
There's a lot of studying. You know, I'm out here speaking. I had to read books and, you know, and then I went to college in the midst of all of this.
You went to college in the middle of
this. My boss at the time was running for president, Reverend Sharpton.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have all this going on. So yeah, I'm busy now because I have several businesses and ventures. We have the podcast and, you know, a lot of things going on. But I don't know that there is that big of a difference between trying to become and then maintaining what you've built.